Welcome everybody to a beautiful day in the Ardennes Forest. We're at Spa-Francorchamps for the latest round of the Michelin Le Mans Cup. A couple of months break, of course, for this championship. They were not at Silverstone, so they were last racing at Barcelona in July. And it's a welcome back, therefore, to what will be 10 GT3 cars in one part of the championship and a whole load of LMP3s that are to qualify after this initial session. 15 minutes, first of all, though, for a varied field, both in nationalities, but also, I'm glad to say this year, in machinery as well. My name's Johnny Palmer. Welcome on board. I'm joined as always by Graham Goodwin, the editor of dailysportscar.com. Can't often be said that we've got two lovely days of weather, particularly this time of year at Spa, but it's delivered, hasn't it?
It most certainly has. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome. It's been spectacular, beautiful weather here. Very cold in the mornings, actually a bit frosty yesterday morning, slightly less so this morning, but beautiful sunny conditions around the 20 degrees mark, and certainly plenty of people soaking up the atmosphere and indeed the coffee this morning from the rooftop bar and restaurant on top of the main pits complex. 99 Beechdene Aston Martin ready, door being mounted there. Been a busy few weeks for Andrew Howard's outfits after the season-ending British GT race just last weekend, where the team's GT4 car was successful with a title win. You've seen some dramas through the week so far, though, Johnny, at the scene we're looking at there through Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Not for these cars, but for the European Le Mans Series cars we'll see later today. Lots happening there.
Yes, but the championship, as far as GT3s are concerned, all about the Swiss teams at the moment. Lucich Racing, the number 71 car, has had a wonderful run so far. Just the one victory, but otherwise, when it's not been at the top step of the podium, they've been on the third step predominantly, and this run of three third places back-to-back. The two at Le Mans, the Thursday race, of course, that is in the week, in the build-up to the big race, and then there's a Saturday morning occasion as well. That will be the case in 2020 as well, because yesterday a calendar for next year announced for the Michelin Le Mans Cup and the European Le Mans Series. A little tweak, but the ELMS, of course, take the break for Le Mans because much of their cars are involved in the major race, but the Michelin Le Mans Cup runners do get their two 55-minute races.
They do indeed, and the major change is going to be a switch between two circuits we've seen this season, Paul Ricard and Barcelona. Paul Ricard's traditional season opener will switch to the summer date, the July date. That, I believe, for the European Le Mans Series will be an evening finish, as we saw in Barcelona this year. The pre-season test and the opening race for the European Le Mans Series and the Michelin Le Mans Cup will be in Barcelona this year on the date traditionally we've seen in very recent years at Paul Ricard. Still looking at those fantastic Kessel Racing liveries. They do really pop, particularly in the sunshine.
Yes, and of course those liveries carried into the ELMS cars as well, with the blue and orange zebra and the blue and pink zebra for 60 and 83. So nice to see that the colour scheme is continued into this GT3 field. So cars of a different spec from those that you'll see in the GTE category in the ELMS. These cars do have ABS and traction control, and therefore are a little bit easier to get your head around if you are a non-pro driver, let's say, and maybe through the week you are very busy with business and the day job, and a lot of these drivers then come for a race kind of once a month. Others do other championships as well, so that they're more busy on the racetrack, but this championship actually supplies a really nice stepping stone into the ELMS if that's the way you wish to go, and then potentially the 24 hours of Le Mans. I'm sure that's the target of most of these drivers in the category that is now lining up. How many have we got? Seven already.
7 there, plus we can see the Valour Corsa AMG to the left, so 8 of the 10 cars in vision. 15 minutes on the clock, and green flag, that starts to tick down. First car out is the number 71 Ferrari in the hands of Fabien Laverne. It will be, of course, the less well-ranked driver that takes part in this qualifying session. Fabien Laverne has been a standout all season. See, in fact, the remaining 2 cars out on the pit apron. And the point situation, Johnny, is actually quite an interesting one. Qualifying could have a part to play here at the end of the season. It is a 7-point gap at the moment between the 71 Lucich Racing car and the 8 Kessel Racing car. And of course, in race points, it's 25 to 18. 7 points is the gap that you'll get between first and second. Yes, with 2 races still to come. The race, obviously, later today here at Spa-Francorchamps, and then just in a few weeks' time at Portimao, the Circuit Algarve in Portugal. But the single point for qualifying here and in Portugal could play a really major part. There are 2 other cars, mathematically, with a chance of catching those 2 cars. They are the 51 Spirit of Race Ferrari and the number 99 Beechstein AMR car, but realistically, for either or both of those cars to be in real title contention, there needs to be a no-scoring weekend for both of the championship leaders, and on form we've seen so far, that's highly unlikely. Out on track though, and you can see really from these pictures just how glorious a day it is here in the Ardennes.
Certainly is, and yes, the points gap at the moment between the championship leaders and those 2 teams that Graham talked about, 43 points with only 52 left on the table. That's 2 lots of 25 for your race wins, and then there are 2 extra points on offer for a pole position here and a pole position in Portimao. So yeah, both Spirit of Race number 51 and the Beechstein AMR squad with their Aston number 99 are going to have to be going some to get ahead of the championship leaders, Mickelmack and Fabien Leverne.
Realistically, out of their hands. What it comes down to now is fortune of the bad sort for the 2 championship leaders to leave the door open for either the chasing pair. And so it doesn't look likely the cars make their way out and around on their formation lap before starting the fast lappery. All 10 cars are out in the circuit. As we said at the start of the show, it is the amateur drivers that are at the wheel of those cars. It's Andrew Howard is aboard the Aston Martin, Paolo Venerosi in the EB Motors Porsche, Fabien Laverne, the bronze rank driver in the Luzic Racing car, the number 71, Claudio Schiavoni in the number 60 Kessel car, Dexter Muller in the SPS Automotive 54 AMG, Christoph Ulrich in the Spirit of Race 51 Ferrari, John Hartshorn in the 50 Kessel car, and it is Bazzucci in the Krypton AMG, Sergio Pianazzola in the number 8 car for Kessel Racing, and Roberto Pampanini in the Vallorba Corsa number 7.
Yes, who are there 11th in the championship currently, Roberto Pampanini, but already onto a quick lap. This is a long circuit, remember, very, very famous throughout the world, one of the most famous ribbons of asphalt, 7,004 metres. So just over 7 kilometres that is its length, and therefore the longest track that we will visit, barring Le Mans of course, which is not a permanent track. This is, on the other hand, and set to actually be beaten. Well, it has already been beaten, hasn't it, with the bend that's been built in Australia. Asian Le Mans Series expected there into their new season. But this is certainly the longest track in Europe, and therefore the longest permanent circuit that the Michelin Le Mans Cup visits. Difficult, therefore, to kind of get every bit of it right, I would say. And I'm sure, just like every other session that we see for these bronze-rated drivers, we're probably going to see the best lap right towards the end as they get more and more confident and more used to the conditions. And
there was an example of exactly, we're certainly not going to see the quickest lap, without misfortune here for Luzic Racing, with the weaving down the Kemmel Straight from Fabien Laverne, trying to get as much heat as possible into those Michelins in each corner of the fabulous Ferrari 488. Already under 11 minutes left. These are quick fire sessions. Remember, slightly longer sessions here for the longer circuit. We'll be the first through to complete a flying lap. It will at least give us a bar under which everybody else would be looking to tuck. The purple sectors that have come so far have both come from this car. Bazzucci in the Krypton AMG, broadly equivalent times from him in the first 2 sectors, in fact goes quicker in the second sector. But Johnny Palmer's, I think, absolutely correct. We've seen this throughout the season, that they are able to increase, or to rather decrease their times throughout the session. Does make for an exciting 10-15 minutes.
But the other thing is, despite the arguably dominance that Luzic Racing have had through the season, they've only had 2 pole positions. So that was at the start of the year, Paul Ricard, and then for the second Road to Le Mans event. Other poles have come from the number 8 Kessel Racing crew, who are just 8 points away from the championship lead. Beechstein with the Aston have had a pole position, and last time out at Barcelona, Krypton Motorsports Mercedes, number 35, sat on the front row. So we'll wait to see. 9.5 minutes to go before this is decided.
And indeed, first track limits violation comes the way of Fabien Laverne. He popped up at the top, identified being the first car over the line. time was bettered, but then lost that time, so no time scored as yet for the 71 car. To the top, though, goes the number 35 Krypton Motorsport car. Stefano Pizzucci had already been quicker than, albeit that deleted lap from Laverne. It's a 2:23.722 is the mark, and that is much, much quicker than anybody yet behind him.
Yeah, very impressive. Nearly 4 seconds faster than Sergio Pianazzola's offering in the Kessel Racing car. 3 more stream across the line almost as one, and they will go 5th, 6th and 7th. So the Kessel Racing Ferrari of Claudio Schiavone, Dexter Muller in his SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes, and the other AMG GT3 from Scuderia Viorba Corsa, Roberto Pampanini, now going up to 5th place, actually, crossing the line now.
Yeah, Christoph Ulrich also pops in with a second fastest time of the session, but immediately loses that one to track limit. So it's still Pizzucci from Pianazzola, Andrew Howard, but almost 5 seconds off the pole position time at the moment for Andrew, but flying at the moment, Fabian Laverne. He is a good half a second quicker in the short first sector than the current provisional pole sitter, and goes quicker again in the second sector. All purple on this lap for the number 71 car.
However, Pianazzola now snatches the best middle sector away from Laverne, who currently sits in 10th position. So needs to neaten up the track limits, but is very tidy into the chicane, the bus stop chicane. The back end starting to wag the tail a little bit as well. And 7 3/4 minutes to go. Using the conventional start-finish line here. Over the line he goes, and to the top by 4.6 seconds.
Wow.
So it's a 2:19.8 from Fabian Laverne. Mightily impressive for the driver of the number 71 Ferrari. And this could be a 3rd pole position of the year. Let's wait and see. Pianazzola in the number 8 Kessel Racing Ferrari. So remember, it's 71 and 8 at the top of the championship. That's the order on the grid at the moment as well. And what more has Pianazzola got up his sleeve? Well, he's condensed the gap to now just 0.4 of a second. So he did have a lot of time up there. So it's a 2:19.0, beg your pardon, for Fabian Laverne, and a 2:19.4 for Sergio Pianazzola, with a car off.
That's the EB Motors car. That looks to have pulled over to the right-hand side of the track. That will be yellow flags until that car can be put into a place of safety. Is that going to cramp the style of some of the drivers trying to improve? Should say, by the way, we have seen quicker times than this in free practice, cars into the 2:18s, and that could be to do with track conditions. Got a couple of incidents out on track. There might be a little bit of slippery surface at a couple of places. Also, of course, weather conditions. Whilst it's been bright, it is still quite cold out there, so we'll wait and see. Double yellow at turn 15 for that stranded EP Motors car, but that was right by a gap in the barrier, and my guess is we will get back to full green flag running before the end of this session. With 6 minutes to go, this is Andrew Howard now in the number 99 Beechdene AMR car, 4th fastest at the moment, 2:22.899. Big improvement on his first crack at this one. He's some 3 seconds, almost 4 seconds off the pole position setting time at the moment from Fabian Laverne, who, by the way, is on another flyer but will not be able to improve because of those double yellows. And I think we've got a red flag. We have got a red flag, and that will, I'm sure, be for recovery of the EB Motors car,
which was being driven by Paolo Venerossi, by the way, and has ground to a halt on the well, that's out of campus and heading towards Curve Paul Frere, and the car to the right-hand side of the direction of travel. So that's found a relatively safe spot to be sitting. Unfortunately for Fabian Laverne, that's come right in the middle of what was going to be a very, very good lap. Now, he wasn't going to be able to continue, as Graham made the point, into Sector 3 because of the double yellows, but prior to that, 2 absolute bests.
And he was 6 tenths up on those 2 alone. So he was well in the bidding for a mid to low 2:18s. Better part of a full second to be taken out of that. Good lap was underway as well by Sergio Pianazzola, but was not going to be matching the pace of Fabian Laverne. Now, the interesting thing here, Johnny, is we have got time to get another quick lap, but we know the heat cycles in these Michelin tyres. Will they be able to do it from a standing start? The answer is, I'm not sure they will. Let's wait and see.
Well, they get an extra long lap, you might say, for the build-up, to try and get some temperature back in again. But yeah, tyres, well, They're sort of built, these tyres, whichever tyre manufacturer it is, to deal with heat cycles, but often you need them to kind of fully cool down before they can be heated up again. So this halfway house situation may not be ideal. By the way, these cars are, well, housed in the secondary pit lane here, the endurance pit lane, which is the downhill stretch. But to my knowledge, though, when we get to the race later on today, they'll be making their mandatory pit stop in the Grand Prix pit lane on the flat surface. I will check that before we get to the race point. I'm feeling that's what happened last year, just to make things easier, because it is very, very downhill towards Eau Rouge.
I see the fuel rigs down the pit lane on the wheeled Daleks, if you like. Interestingly, the cars, top of the timing sheets at the moment, are the top 4 in the championship, and actually the gaps in time broadly reflect the gaps we're actually seeing in the points. Dominance from the top 2 with Laverne and Pianazzola, the 71 and the 8. Then it's the 51 and the 99. They are the 2 cars with a mathematical chance of challenging, but they are respectively 3.2 and 3.8 seconds off. That's a big gap. It's a big mountain to climb for those drivers.
Yeah, that's going to be tough, despite the expected improvement that Graham and I have, you know, as times will no doubt get quicker and quicker. We're significantly faster than we were last year, but I have a feeling that session was held in the wet. Unfortunately, it doesn't tell me on the qualifying results sheet what the weather conditions were, but the pole position time in GT3 are 2:30, which seems rather slow compared to these times, unless we have literally got a sort of 12-second improvement year on year. So remember last year on the Sunday, the ELMS race had to be called short by 50% because we had horrendous weather conditions moving in, and that's with the race being shifted earlier in the day as well, in an attempt to avoid the difficult weather conditions we had in 2018. Thankfully, nothing as bad as that on the horizon, although there is a little bit of rain in forecast, I think, for tomorrow, which could make the ELMS race even more entertaining. But today, although ambient temperature is not great, we have got wall-to-wall sunshine, which is tremendous here at Spa-Francorchamps. 5 minutes 53 seconds to go. Remember, within that, there's going to have to be an outlap as well before times can start to tumble.
Well, number 71 car and the number 8 ready to go again. And
we are about to start the session. We are about to resume the session.
And I don't need to add the point I was about to make, because
pit exit is green. Pit exit is green.
Yeah, it's a quick fire timetable here today, with lots of action for the Michelin Le Mans Cup cars, qualifying of course for the ELMS, and a couple of other support races on the bill. It's a packed weekend of racing here at Spa-Francorchamps. Away go most of the cars, launching out behind the barrier with the accompanying recovery vehicle. And away they go. And it does look to me like Fabien Laverne is in something of a hurry to put the marker down again.
And that's Pianazzola right behind, isn't it? The number 8 car. So, and Krypton Motorsport Mercedes really not very far away either. Stefano Pizzucchi. By the way, the race for these cars today, and a timetable for a 4 o'clock local time start through till 6 with the mandatory pit stop. That's the usual the sort of bread and butter rounds for the Michelin Le Mans Cup being 2 hours, and then the extra 2 55-minute races that happen at Le Mans. You don't have to start with your bronze driver in the race, but it has to be the bronze rated driver to do the qualifying.
I should say, by the way, there's one car here, number 60 Castle Racing car, yet to actually register a flying lap time. It's been 4 laps under the wheels of that car. That means all their flying laps so far have been deleted.
Oh dear. Oh well. You can start the session now, I suppose. There is just about enough time left on the clock. We're down to, unfortunately, 9 runners, but let's hope that Heavy Motors can get their Porsche sorted for the race. That's the slight downside of qualifying and racing on the same day. The turnaround time is very tight indeed.
Certainly time enough to get 2 flying laps in, depending on how quickly you were out that pit lane. As we watch the stunning colours of the number 7 car, Scuderia Villorba Corsa, Roberto Pampanini at the wheel of that car. The AMG GT3.
Well, the 3 that were very quick out of the blocks into the sort of rejoining the session after the green flag was waved again, they're already heading up to Blanchimont. There is, in fact, Fabien Laverne. Sergio Pianazzola, I think, sensibly dropping back a little bit, so won't get any sort of tow down the Kemmel straight. However, I think that's probably better to not have the distraction of a car immediately in front.
Something on our screens that says that lap 4 for car 71 has been reported to the stewards for violation of the yellow flag and red flag procedure.
Oh
now,
dear.
was that Fabien Laverne not lifting off where he should have done? We did say he was on a flyer. He wasn't in the incident zone, but did he continue that pace into that incident zone under either yellow and or reds?
Well, the problem is that we mentioned, didn't we, it was an absolute best through Sector 2, and Sector 2 ends right at the point where the incident was. So no hint of easing up, despite seeing double waved yellows there. So could well have eased off right past the incident, but the problem is you've got marshals out on track. You need to be seen to be slowing down much before that, as soon as you see the double yellows. And then the red flag indicates, I think you've got to trundle back to the pit lane at something like 30 or 40 Ks. So we'll wait and see whether there are any repercussions about that, but that's a much more serious violation than just track limits.
Let's wait and see, because at the moment Laverne makes a liar of me, by the way, of not being able to get the heat back into those tyres quickly. He's already 3.5 tenths under his quickest for the first sector. Did look to be a little bit of track limits potentially as an issue as they came through Speaker's Corner.
I thought that as well, all four wheels over the curb.
Let's wait and see what happens at the end of this lap. Lap 5, meanwhile, for car 7 has been deleted. That is the Scuderia Veloce AMG of Pampanini.
That's the gold one, isn't it?
Gold black one.
With Sergio Pianezzola then just exiting turns 12 and 13 at Fagnes, and now the right-hander at 14, which these days is labelled Campus. The old Stavolo corner, now curve Paul Frere, of course, and then it's flat all the way through Blanchimont, foot to the ball through here. Maybe a slight lift through the second bit of Blanchimont, but that car was just moving, dancing its way as Fabien Laverne turns it in to the left-hander and then hard onto the brakes. All the weight shifts to the front of the car, clips the curb a little bit on the way in and on the way out as well, but not overly so. And what's this time going to be? Well, it's 2 purples already. He can't quite get the third, but he does improve his time. And into the 18s he goes. Low 18 as well, so 2:18.2.
2:18.2 plays 2:19.0 now for Pianezzola, so that would have been good enough for provisional pole. If he keeps that lap, though, Fabien Laverne at 2:18.2 has a gap of 3/4 of a second at the top of timing and scoring. Pizzucci stays third. He's improved on that time around as well. Yes, he did. And finally, we get a lap on the board for the number 60 Kessel racing car. That car pops up in 7th position in the hands of Claudio Schiavone.
So, Ferrari, Mercedes, then the Aston is 4th fastest, a Ferrari and Mercedes 3rd row, but that changes again because of improvement for... that was Andrew Howard going 3rd, wasn't it? Yeah, jumping ahead of the 51 car.
Closing in, I think that was a drop lap score from Christoph Ulrich. The 35 car loses a lap, the 71 car does lose a lap and loses pole position. So into pole because of that track limits violation we talked about a little while ago. Sergio Pianezzola by 28 thousandths of a second,
wow.
to 2:19.012 to a 2:19.040, and Pianezzola is quicker on this final lap.
Also, the 35 car, this car, the Krypton Motorsport machine, having a lap deleted, lap 6, because of a track limits abuse at turn 17, which is Blanchimont. So easy, I suppose, to drop a couple of wheels off the track on the exit of that corner to driver's right. Kicking up the dust behind for any of those in his face as well is, once more, Pizzucchi, driving the Krypton Motorsport Mercedes. But yes, dramatic changes at the sharp end.
But it
28 thousandths of a second.
But it's going to be mighty close at the end here. I don't think we're going to know who's going to be ahead on timing and scoring till after this checkered flag, because purple sector for the current pole, provisional pole setter Pianezzola, purple second sector, but by a margin from Fabien Laverne. I think this is going to be Laverne at the flag. It's going to all depend on this final sector of this 15-minute session.
High stakes here, well, as far as a point is concerned, but we have said that it's going to be all important across the line for Laverne. 17, a 2:17.9. Now, we didn't see all of the lap, but has he kept it within the 2 white lines, I wonder?
Well, let's wait and see how that one actually goes forward. He actually... Did he? That's a spin for somebody else. The 51 spins.
Or is it the 50... It was either the 51 or... the other red Ferrari? Was it the 50 car?
Either way, that is some lap time from Fabien Laverne. Purple sector in sectors 2 and 3, very close to the purple time in sector 1 from Pianezzola, puts 9/10 of a second on the Kessel racing car, who, by the way, dipped into the 18s himself.
Yes. Yeah, so certainly not a shabby time from Sergio Pianezzola, but Fabien Laverne presumably keeping his racing lines much more neat and tidy, and we've had no further messages, although cars 71 and 8 will go straight to scrutineering. The only hint of a black cloud now that hovers above Fabien Laverne is what happened when Paolo Venerossi's Porsche ground to a halt, and Laverne was seen not to ease off the throttle.
We have seen in the past all times deleted in those kind of circumstances. We'll wait and see what happens ahead of the race this afternoon. Of course, we'll bring you up to date with that before the cars go racing. One other change right at the end of the session was Pizzucci grabbed back that third position from Andrew Howard right at the death of that session. It was indeed, by the look of things, the 51 car, I think, that had the spin. It was Christopher Ulrich. He manages to finish the session in 5th place, but that was a real good tussle between the top two. It came down really, Johnny Palmer, to who could keep the lap clean. And Fabien Laverne, it would seem, managed to do that.
Yeah, and Pianezzola, as we said, some credit to him for the 2:18.8, a very respectable time. But nobody quite saw 2:17 coming from Fabien Laverne, and he has certainly been one of the class drivers to look out for, both in the Michelin Le Mans Cup this year and also in ELMS within GTE, driving this year, of course, with Nicholas Nielsen and Alessandro Pierguidi.
So the 88 car to be recovered to the flatbed as the LMP3 cars you saw in the previous shot begin to come out to the working lane ahead of their session. It's going to be a rather more crowded track for those cars. 18 of them we expect to be out there. There will be one car missing, and our best wishes, by the way, as we see before we give those best wishes to the overall classification, Johnny.
2:17.902, a mighty lap from Fabien Laverne to be faster than Sergio Pianezzola by almost a full second. 2.2 further back, Krypton Motorsports Mercedes with Stefano Pizzucchi doing the time, then Andrew Howard's Aston Martin number 99 ahead of the Spirit of Race Ferrari despite the spin on the final lap. The better lap was done earlier on by Christoph Ulrich, and the SPS Automotive Performance Mercedes will start from the 3rd row ahead of the Scuderia Vioba Corsa similar car. So the top 3 on the grid. This machine, the Krypton Motorsport, black and green, again dramatic livery for a Mercedes AMG that works very nicely. The stripes, the white stripes on the blue background of the Kessel Racing Ferrari of Sergio Pianezzola that he shares with Giacomo Puccini. They are going for a double title win in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, having been victorious in 2018. But this squad of Mikkel Mack and Fabien Laverne are certainly going to take some beating in the final couple of races here at Spa and Portimao in a month's time. Just 7 points in it between the 71 and the 8 Ferraris.
And remember, in that class, not LMP3, but in that GT class, not just a title win, but also an automatic entry for the Le Mans 24 Hours. That would be a massive plus for Luzic Racing. And in the title hunt as well, by the way, in the ELMS, where another place actually beckons, could they actually be there with 2 cars for the Le Mans 24 Hours in 2020? That will be some entry into an international competition, into international ACO rules racing from them. Here we have it then. This is the LMP3 field just getting themselves together ahead of the start of their 15 minutes of qualifying. Just before we went back to look at those top 3, I was about to just pass on our best wishes to Mike Gouache, who will not be here. It's 17 degrees, by the way, in the air. 13 degrees in the air, cooler than yesterday, after Mike suffered a huge off in the European Le Mans Series race at Silverstone. And Mike, back at home in the United States and recovering. The 24 car that he would co-drive here has been withdrawn from this race. Wish you well, Mike. Glad you're as fit as you are, because that was some incident. So the 24 car will not feature, but we will still have 18. We had a 19th LMP3 chassis car in action, Johnny Palmer, in the 2 free practice sessions. Will not be featuring in qualifying. It's another step forward for the H24 technology demonstrator, hydrogen fuel car. Some impressive technology on display in the paddock with a brand new mobile fuel station from Total, the fuel partner for that program. And some news coming about what we can expect to see potentially at Portimao. We wait and see what the decision is from the team, whether or not we see that car back in free practice and perhaps even qualifying at Portimao. And then I am told that we will see that car racing in the Michelin Le Mans Cup next year, where the objective is to have that car substantially, by the way, heavier than an LMP3 car, something like 1.4 tonnes, that car with the current tech on it. But looking to get that car to something like GT3 pace during the season next year. Really interesting stuff. There will be a lot more to come, and believe you me, that is a flag carrier for what awaits in a very few years' time at the sharp end of the grid at the Le Mans 24 Hours at race-winning pace.
That's an interesting point about the weight. I didn't know that statistic. Is that down to just the equipment that's required on board then to make the thing run, or is that the fuel load that's creating that weight?
Well, the hydrogen fuel is not going to weigh that much at all.
Because it's just water, right?
It is, but it can run. The car can actually run a full LMP3 length stint, about 55 minutes to an hour.
Yeah.
But the tankage, you know, the various gubbins in that car, it's amongst the questions we've actually still got for the team. And of course, there's going to be some things they will tell us, and there's going to be some things they won't tell us. But it is about gentle steps taken.
Yes.
And the gentle steps taken forward here is their ability to fuel it with a proper fuel station. Effectively, what was here when we saw the car demonstrated last year was the hydrogen equivalent of a dump churn. Here, it's a fully equipped, containerized hydrogen fueling station. Really, really impressive technology. And with a green flag with LMP3, we start to ask ourselves the question, is that what we've got coming in the next decade or so? Let's wait and see.
It's a new era for LMP3 next year, isn't it? So let's enjoy these cars, the outgoing generation of LMP3s that have provided such great entertainment. And of course, 4 new chassis coming, all starting from year 0, effectively. So we should have a very good fight across the board as well. Arguably, mainly the Norma is quicker, whichever track we go to. However, in the race, anything can happen.
Absolutely.
And we have seen Ligier outpace across a 2-hour period the Norma M30. Why could that not happen here at Spa? A couple of Ligiers being held back just to allow the first batch of cars, of which there are 18 in total, to head through the first sequence of corners. So up over Radion, through the right-hand kink that leads onto the Kemmel Straight. And although it is straight in terms of the steering wheel, you are still climbing all the way up to the highest point in the circuit there at Les Combes before the plummet downhill through Bruxelles, through Speaker's Corner, the left-hander at turn 9, and then Pouhon, which is a mighty double left-hander that you approach at ridiculous speeds, and it has made me blind through that left-hander. We have seen some nasty accidents there over the years, but it's a real challenging corner and rewards the brave. Now, one of the later cars to join is the number 90 machine, which is the AT Racing entry of Alexander Talkanitzer Jr. and Senior.
It's usually Senior that takes the track with this session, I think.
Yes.
But 90 gets on the gas right now, and let's move the 8 burbles into productive action.
Yes, actually LMP3 drivers for this session, relatively easy to work out because every team only has 1 bronze driver. So it'll be Tony Wells for Nielsen in the number 2 car. Then we got Francois Kerman in number 3 for DKR. John Schaumann in the Cool Racing Ligier number 4. Marcello Manutiotto for car 5, another DKR engineering entry. Eric Trouillet in the Graf car number 9. Nicolas Mellin in the Racing Experience. Mark Crader for Grain Market. The 2 United Autosport cars, it's Jim Maguire in 22 and Rob Hodes in 23. Mikey Benham, welcome back, Mikey, after a horrible accident at Barcelona, which meant that the Lannon Racing crew had to sit out the race. Number 25 returns, though, with Duncan Tappy, who we will see in the race later on today. Jacques Wolf for CD Sport, number 30. The other Graf car, Adrian Schiller. Alain Costa for Kio Racing. The 55 Spirit of Race car will be Claudio Sedanovic. Morris Smith, the American, for Cool Racing number 74. 80 we've dealt with. Cool Racing number 96 will have Philippe Chimodomo. And Eric de Donker to drive Motorsport 98, car number 98.
And a neat split, 9 Ligers, 9 Normas in the 18 cars we've got running here this weekend. Cracking grid of LMP3 cars. And this championship, Johnny, since they changed it to a mixed format, really has come along. It's an absolute joy to commentate on the Michelin Le Mans Cup of late. And these cars do look glorious in these conditions. Through the trees, top of Radion. to get some heat into the tyres, and DKR in this format of racing just have dominated.
They have. We've had no other team winning the championship so far. Now, admittedly, we only had LMP3s in for the full season in 2017, but in 17 a win for Alex Torrell and Jean Gloria. The following year, Jens Pettersson and Leonardo Hugenboom.
Oh, trouble.
And already a spin for... Now, that is quite early on in the lap, isn't it?
Is that a Kill Racing car?
Is it number 74, which is flashing on my screen as being stopped? And it could well be Blanchimont, actually, although a strange angle whereby the left-hander looks much tighter.
Come on, just looked to be moving, just as we swept away from it. I thought, wonder whether or not they coughed back into life.
Morris Smith would be my bet, number 74.
It's a Kill Racing car.
Yes, it is.
I think it's got itself going again.
It's actually...
Green flag, it has.
Yeah. It was a replay, and the car was moving, you're right. Anyway, so early dramas potentially for 74, yes, because that's now moving again on our little tracker and crosses the line to start a fast lap. Now, hopefully, that problem won't affect the fast lap that's about to be started. The Landon Racing car is wedged up behind. Was that the Racing Experience machine?
Motorsport 98 car.
Motorsport 98, number 9, yeah, okay.
Donka. And this is a new car, by the way, to London Racing. New to them, if you like. So, been bought from a French team. Looked fantastic. Looks to me like Graham Johnson and his crew. Oh, and he just messed up his braking limits. Actually, kept within track limits.
Did very well.
So, let's wait and see what that produces. Francois Kerman is the moment quickest. Adrian Schiller, Mikey Benham, despite that moment, Johnny, goes quickest. 2:20.939, despite that moment. So, still has, we'll see that again. Mikey coming behind the number 2 car.
Tony Wells in the 2, and Tony didn't seem to brake particularly early, but it did seem to just catch out Mikey Benham. Now, whether it was just Tony was easing off in readiness for a quick lap, and of course Benham was already on one and coming right to the end of it and didn't want to mess it up, but Benham had a split-second decision to make there, whether to go right or left, fully locked up. He went left. Thankfully, by that point, the number 2 car wasn't there anymore, and as Graham says, kept within the white line. So we'll be allowed to keep the lap, and it's a 2:20.9 is his reward.
Well, actually, looking at that third sector time, I think he lost 2 seconds in that final sector.
Yeah, he probably
so
did.
Potentially a 2:18 on that lap. So lots still to come from this session. Just under 9 minutes to go. The moment it's Lannon from the 2 Graf cars, Trullier and Chiller. Then the DKR number 3 car, then Tony Wells. That is your top 5, but that's going to get shuffled immediately. Talkanitsa now up there, that late starting car in the session. That seems to have paid off. Alexander Talkanitsa pops up into 4th place in the session, and the lead car of the Ligier pack. So just watching where the speed is coming. Kierman going quickly in sector 1. Nico Melin in the Racing Experience car pops up into 5th. That's another good lap time. At the moment, Norma's dominating this session, 6 to the top 7.
Yeah. Well, we had one of each on the front row last year and got down to the low 2:17s. So that's now making me think that the session, well, at least the LMP3 session was dry, because we got to a 2:17.2, and that was a Benham time, because it was the 25 that started on pole position 12 months ago. So Mikey Benham's got form around Spa-Francorchamps.
But it's not going to be the provisional pole setter, I don't think, for very much longer, because if Francois Kierman can keep this on the grey stuff, he is going to blitz that provisional time of Mike Benham, and Mike's current lap is going to better it either. He's going to keep it either. Kierman goes to the top, it's a 2:16.255, almost 5 seconds clear. So a group of cars that don't really get involved in this. Clear running here is going to be the key. Tony Wells goes second, then Trullier. Mikey Benham goes through, improves, but not enough. So he's 4 seconds back now. Just wonder whether or not he's actually flat spotted those tyres.
Adrian Schiller makes it 4 Norma M30s at the sharp end. Mark Crader now a 5th Norma there, because he goes 5th in the Grain Market Racing entry, number 20.
Good effort from him in his first season.
Very good. That's the sister car of the number 2, effectively, isn't it? It's run by Nielsen Racing and team manager Sven and his outfit.
Kierman improving again in the first sector. Another purple sector from Francois Kierman. Way quicker than anybody else at the moment. Kierman from Wells, Trullier, Chiller, Crater.
And some movement there, which was immediately corrected because some cars are having times deleted once again, like the Kia Racing machine. Also a fourth lap for car 5, the DKR Engineering Norma. That's the green one of Marcello Marattiotto. Just had a time deleted too.
It was absolutely. It was the DKR Engineering car. I think has lost 2 laps now.
Oh, okay. Well, for the second infringement, that was a run wide at Radion at the top of the hill. So I'm guessing out over the curbs to driver's right as you reach the crest. Nicola Mella, great time for racing experience to split Kerman and Wells and bag a provisional front row start. So that's now 7 Norma M30s at the sharp end of the grid.
And it's a second purple sector for the provisional pole setter, already 1.7 seconds clear. What can he do in the third sector? Is he going to have a clear run to this? As he does, I think we can see a fairly spectacular lap time here from Francois Kierman. Mikey Benham now looking for clear air as he's been dropping down the order. 10th now for Mikey Benham, having sat initially on provisional pole position. Wait for Kierman to cross the line. 2:16.2 it was, 2:14.8 now.
Very impressive indeed from the Frenchman, who then doing so well in the championship also, but not, well, they are leading now because of the problems at Spa for Mikey Benham and Duncan Tappy.
Barcelona.
Barcelona, sorry.
Adrian Chiller pops up 2:17. 2 cars, in fact, in the 2:17s. One, Adrian Chiller, and Mike Benham now goes up to 3rd, but they're 2.5 seconds off the charge from Francois Kierman.
Yes, it's a 17-point gap currently that Francois Kerman and Laurence Her have over Tappy and Benham, who stayed on 66 points in Spain. They went there with that amount and could not improve because of huge damage from the car, and also to Mikey Benham in an earlier session in the weekend.
And realistically, we're not in a dissimilar position here, are we, for Benham and Tappy? They are looking to win this race and hope that misfortune strikes the DKR squad with a very low scoring or no scoring race here to take that battle to the final round.
Yeah, that's what's so difficult about a race series that has relatively few races, and obviously if you stand to lose so much with 25 on offer for a win, 18 for second place, 15 for third, but a non-finish can be very, very costly. It's not unheard of. Oh, spin there for racing experience car. Yeah, Mallard charging again to try and improve on
We've lost timing.
For a second place finish, but the timing, it looks like, is now slightly out of date. So Kerman, we know, went across the line doing a 2:14.6.
And then after that, I'm afraid, we've lost timing for a short while because nothing is moving on our timing screen, so we're going to be reliant on what you can see on the screen at the moment.
Well, the tracker is still working nicely, so I can tell you when cars are due across the line as well to look out for. 2.4 according to the graphic is the margin that Francois Kerman currently has to lean on, with the Lannon Racing crew in 3rd position. There's now, though, yellow flags in that final sector because of the spin into the bus stop. I thought that car cleared itself relatively quickly, Nicola Mella. The yellow flags are still being shown nevertheless. Oh, it's another spinner, that's why. Is that Claudio Sedanovic? It is, in the Spirit of Race 55 car that's now facing the wrong way. And that secondary period of yellow flag has now been withdrawn. So Sedanovic back on the straight and narrow. Meanwhile, Francois Kerman has crossed the line again. What we can't tell you at this stage is whether it was an improvement on the 2:14.6. It's going to have to be going some if that is the case.
One heck of a lap.
Mightily impressive. And Francois Kerman then with pole positions already at Paul Ricard at the first race at Le Mans, but hasn't been on the front row or hasn't been on pole position since then.
So just, 2.25 minutes remain. And with apologies for our inability to tell you what the live timing is telling us. I'm just going to see what we can do. Still 2:14.679. It's another spinner. This time it's the 22 car. That'll be Jim Maguire.
It is closing two United Autosports cars. Sorry, Graham.
But Mikey Benham has closed the gap under a second back now. That was that contact to the rear?
I don't think there was contact.
Just avoided it.
It was Maguire trying to avoid touching a car into the bus stop chicane.
And then half spinning and trying to rejoin.
Yeah, unfortunately. And he did very well, actually, not to get fully beached there because the car was caught up on the curb where cars would turn right to head into the pit lane.
We've got the timing back. It is Francois Kerman still with that 1:14.679. Mikey Benham, though, is looking to challenge that and close the gap to under a second. He's going quicker again now, but in a fastest first sector time of the session. Adrian Chiller, not a million miles back. 1.8 seconds back, but going quicker this time. As is Maritiotto, who's recovered from those lost laps earlier in the session. So both DKR cars in the top four now. Tony Wells sits fifth. He's improving now on this lap. Nico Melin, great session from him apart from that spin. And the number 11 Racing Experience, top 6 position for him before we get into the top Ligiers, which sits 7th, 8th and 9th. It's the AT Racing car. So off goes, that's the 5 car, that is Maritiotto, isn't it?
Yeah, currently in 5th position, and that could well have been an improvement because he'd gone quicker than he'd managed so far through the first sector.
Tony Wells goes 3rd.
So, yeah.
We'll get one more go at this.
2:15.6. CD Sport already calling it a day. Jacques Wolf happy with his afternoon, or morning as it is, and we'll look forward to the race later on today at 4 o'clock.
And Mikey Benham found traffic did not improve on that lap, so we've now got a trail of 3 cars within a second of that provisional pole time. But the clock is counting down. It's going to have to be done now or never.
Yeah, just a handful of seconds left on the clock, but if you've already started a lap, then you will be allowed to finish it. The number 2 car heading through Le Con, the checkered flag, if you're at the start line now, or indeed finish line, is being waved. But Tony Wells, lying 4th, is potentially on for a good lap here because he's improved his time, as has Eric Trillier behind, setting an absolute best through the first sector. That's the run then from the start line through La Source, through Eau Rouge and up to the end of the Camel Straight. That is the first sector. Let's see what Eric Trillier can do from this point on for Graf.
Watch Adrian Chiller's time. Whilst it wasn't an improvement for him, it's a very quick first sector, so we've got 2 or 3 guys out there in a position where they could do something about this pole position, going very fast indeed. Mikey Benham looks to be a little bit off the required pace to improve on his time, so his second position is looking at risk. But Heerman has got the hurry up because he's gone fastest overall in the second sector.
So we've got Trillier with an absolute best through sector 1, Kerman absolute best through sector 2, and 1 or 2 other cars as well with turning blue times, which indicate a personal best for the individual driver. Up towards Blanchimont for Eric Trillier, giving it its all. And that's not Trillier, is it? Because Trillier's only just run now through Curve Paul Frere.
It's the 39
39
car.
is Adrian Schiller.
This was a good lap from Schiller. Let's wait to see what that puts him right now. Was 5th. Crosses the line. Goes 2nd.
So Graf to the front row, rather. I thought it might have been in the form of Eric Trillier, who's just arriving at the bus stop now.
He's very quick, and this could be something that challenges pole position.
Car number 9 about to cross the line. How far up can Eric Trillier go?
He goes second.
By half a second adrift of Francois Kerman's effort, and Kerman's already crossed the line, so we're not going to see any further improvement there. I don't think it's going to be necessary. Mark Crader has improved through the first sector but crosses the line and does improve his lap time but not actually his starting position. 12th spot then for Grain Market Racing. 1 more to come home, that's John Showerman, but I don't think he's going to be improved on 13th position.
So the net position there's at change was Mikey Benham. Despite an improvement for Mikey, he was shuffled back a couple of positions by both of the Graf Racing cars. So the overall order, Johnny, it is the DKR Engineering, the championship leading car number 3, Francois Kerman, the 2:14.628, comes home with just shy of a half a second's gap to Eric Trillier in the 9, and then the 39 Graf car of Adrian Chiller. So Graf Racing 2nd and 3rd before we get to that Land Racing 25 of Mikey Benham 4th. That's your first 2 rows. The 3rd row as well is an all-Norma affair, as the first 2 rows are. Tony Wells for the Nielsen Racing number 2, Maritiotto in the 2nd, the DKR cars, and indeed the next row after that is Nico Melin in the Racing Experience, in another Norma before we get to Telkenitsa Senior in the AT racing car number 98th. That is the first of the Ligiers.
So the championship leaders get another point. Their advantage will stretch to 18 points now over the Lannon racing pair of Duncan Tappy and Michael Benham. But Benham's qualifying effort puts him 4th and certainly in the hunt to score well here at Spa-Francorchamps. The race is later today, so join us for that at 4 o'clock local time. From Graham Gooden and Johnny Palmer, it's bye-bye for now.